Alright, let's go over colon usages. And colon's this thing with the two dots over here, right? Don't confuse it with the semicolon, which is a completely different thing. So how do you use colons? I'm sure you guys, have seen many basic uses, which is like, I like three things, or let's say I like three car companies, right? And then you give a list. BMW, Lexus, and Toyota? Right? Toyota. So it's one of the most common ways of using the colon, but on the SATs or ACTs, there's a lot of, they ask you in many different ways, right? More advanced ways. But before that, I want to go over what's probably going to be wrong on the SATs, but you see it all the time. I see a lot of people using colons this way, where they say like, my life, and then they do colon, awesome, period. I'm not saying this is wrong. Yes, it's wrong. But if you become a famous enough writer, I think you could do whatever you want. So I don't want to say it's wrong, right? I know there are famous writers who has horrible grammar in their writing, but it doesn't matter because they're famous, right? But SAT and ACT, they want you to follow conventions, right? And some of the conventions that they want you to follow are basically this. Besides listing, they want you to do a IC, which means independent clause, right? Clause, and then colon, and then whatever your example is. So X and then period. So what is that an example of? So you can do something besides listing, right? You could do something like this over here, right? There was only one thing on my mind after I saw my brother drive my new car, and then you could do colon. He is dead, right? He's dead. Why? Because he drove my car without asking me, right? And that's what's on my mind. So, colons are usually used to explain something, right? Explain something more in detail, and usually talks about the object, right? Usually talks about the object. So let's look at this. There was only one thing on my mind, right? So what is the main idea? There was only one thing, right? On my mind. This is the dependent clause. So, what's on my mind? What's on my mind is he is dead, right? And that's the object. That's what it's explaining, right? It's explaining what's on my mind, right? This is a dependent clause, and you could tell by switching it around if it works or not. You can switch it around by saying, after I saw my brother drive my car, there was only one thing on my mind, right? That's a dependent clause, independent clause. This is right now independent clause, dependent clause. Right, he is dead. So you can write a sentence after this, and I know you can do a semicolon like this. There's a separate lesson on semicolons, so you can watch that one. You could do semicolon, he is dead, but it's really not that close in meaning. It's better to use colon in this case, right? You can do colon and anything you want. You can do death, right? We don't know what that death is, but that's what's on my mind. Or you can do a lowercase like, capital H, he is dead. So you could do a sentence after this, right? So basically after the colon, you could do whatever you want as long as talking about the object. And on test prep especially, they want you to explain, they want what comes after the colon to explain whatever it was in the object, more often than not, right? And obviously they have to be closely related in meaning. So you could write a very simple example. Try one yourself, right? You could do like, I only want one car, right? And then that explains it, right? I only want one. What is the one, right? I only want one car, and what is that car? For instance, I want a BMW M4, right? Oops, M4. So that'll be it. I only want one car, and then it explains what that car is. That's how you can use the colon properly, right? And on this case, back over here, I should have mentioned that, what's on my mind, really, this is a prepositional phrase that's explaining thing, right? There was only one thing. There was a thing, right? And what is a thing? Thing that's on my mind, and what's on my mind? He's dead.